Hey, welcome everyone back to Spiritual Selfish channel. Today is a little bit different type of video. Today I'm here together with Beatrice and I'm gonna introduce her in just a second. But for those of you who are just landing on Spiritual Selfish channel, this is channel where we focus on you so that you can raise your vibration and become conscious creator of your own life. And I'm your host here, Kristina Day. So today I'm here with Beatrice, who's a fellow YouTuber. She's known as Bright Beatrice, and she's also able to tap in and channel messages from higher realms. And on her YouTube channel, she shares more about spirituality and power of journaling, and she helps people to be present in the moment to develop their awareness on their spiritual development. And stay till the end because Beatrice will share a channeled message with us that she recently got about the 5D shift that we are all in. But Beatrice, I'm so excited to have you on here and have this chat about all of the things.
Glad to be here. On my YouTube channel, I discuss journaling and spirituality, and this is a topic of interest for me, and in general, like we're spreading awareness with this video of all these sort of different concepts like aliens and Galactic Federation. So, if you're from my channel and you're here, like welcome as well. Like we're just gonna have like a good conversation really today.
Yeah, exactly. So it was funny like how we came up with this idea, like Beatrice and I, we connected instantly and started talking about, galactic beings, psychic abilities and so on and so forth. And then we decided, you know what, why we don't record this conversation just to give a new perspective for other people, because I feel what we are talking about is not a common knowledge, but it's something very actual that is happening in the now on Earth with the 5D shift. So,
Yeah.
so with this video, guys, we're gonna be sharing with you and just having a conversation about psychic abilities, past lives, galactic beings, based on our own human experience and based on the channeled messages that we have channeled, right? So watch this video with open mind, share it with a friend with whom you think will be helpful for, and really take what resonates, leave out what
Yeah.
doesn't. And as always, I'm gonna leave all the details to Beatrice Instagram and her YouTube channel in the description down below, so make sure you check her out as well. But
Yeah.
yeah, is there
So
anything?
basically, like, there's so much to discuss here because we can talk about the sort of like Galactic Federation and what they're like, but we have to first like kind of introduce what those really are to
Yeah,
people.
yeah, exactly, 100%. So before we jump into into Galactic Federation and all of those things, um, let's talk a little bit about psychic abilities. I released a psychic abilities video on how I was able to tap in earlier this week. But Beatrice, would you like to share, a little bit of your background about your intuition? What is psychic abilities for you, and how long have you been doing this?
In my personal view, I kind of feel like, the psychic abilities or our psychic abilities is like our sixth sense. So we have the five senses on this, plane that we're on right now. And then, basically depending on like how we sort of raise our vibration, we were able to develop these psychic gifts, and we can like from a very young age. For me personally, I've always sort of been able to tap into higher energies, and I've always sort of had this psychic gift. But like the more and more I sort of experienced like the spiritual awakening, more higher consciousness was able to kind of integrate into me and integrate into my awareness. So over time I started getting signs from my guides all the time in my environment. I started to, get very vivid dreams growing up and stuff like that. And honestly, it's kind of like this other sense that you kind of have, and it's very much developed. It's developed with your own sort of personal development in some sense, but it's kind of complicated because you've got to decalcify your pineal gland to an extent in order to receive such psychic abilities and intuitions and stuff like that. So yeah, there's like, for me it's mainly just like receiving visions and dreams, and also like hearing things, so clairaudience as well. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, it's also about, I did a tons of inner work, tons of shadow work, and raised my vibration, but I
Yeah.
kind of did all of those things unconsciously. And when my psychic abilities kind of, started kicking in, and started noticing consciously all of these messages, I looked back and I was able to connect the dots. But what would you say, for somebody who is like, okay, I want to develop my psychic abilities, how do I decalcify my pineal gland? What can I do now to be able to do this as well?
Water filtering has been the biggest thing for me. So, I always make sure I filter out my water. I always sort of make sure that I'm like mindful of like everything that I'm kind of consuming, and yeah, just in general. Also, meditation is powerful, like mindfulness, any mindfulness practice, like the more present you are in the moment, the more that in which higher consciousness and guides and stuff like that are able to reach out to you, because if you're present and you're there, and also being aware of the psychic world as well and being open to it. I think so often our pineal gland isn't like, yes, it's a part of our brain, it's like a part of who we kind of like, it's part of everyone really, but people don't recognize that within themselves. We all kind of live life and have these sort of like moments or experiences that we just can't explain, and it's being open to it instead of just like putting logic and trying to understand things from that side. We can go, you know what, I'm open to the spiritual world, I'm open to these different ideas now. um and definitely, yeah, just awakening through that process of really going within and becoming more spiritual. Like, that's what's happening right now in the Great Awakening.
Yeah, 100%. And I love so much that you said we have to recognize this in ourselves, because for for example, take me, right? um During my childhood, I would hear voices in my head or something, or have this intuition, but I thought, well, everyone is like this, right? And I didn't pay any attention to it. And even when I started to receive my first downloads, I was like, well, it's just voice in my head, or this is just a specific feeling that I'm able to translate. But it only was when, maybe about around June or May, when I was listening to a podcast from somebody, from another psychic, and she was talking about aliens, and she was describing how aliens are just basically, we all are aliens,
Yeah.
and now I'm thinking like what even alien is. But basically what she said, if you cannot accept the fact that you are alien yourself, how can you expect that you will accept that there are aliens who will come down on Earth, right? We
Yeah.
have to open our mind that we all are aliens. And I know it sounds crazy, but we are just pure consciousness, and we had, lifetimes on this Earth, like past lifetimes, and in other star systems. um and once I realized that, then is when I consciously became aware, oh, okay, it's Galactic Federation speaking with me, it's Pleiadians, it's Arcturians, and so on. So let's touch on a little bit about
Oh, yeah.
Galactic Federation and Pleiadians, and other dimensional beings and aliens. Basically, who are they in your opinion?
Basically, yeah, I totally resonate with what you said, like sort of going through the process of awakening, finding these things out, doing your research, reading about this. I remember when I first sort of awakened, I sort of definitely went down that sort of like rabbit hole on YouTube and stuff like that. And I came across Till Swan's videos
Mm,
actually, and they kind of opened me more up to the famous third eye video, just like completely changed it for me. And then I saw Ralph
okay.
Smart and he did a similar video, and it was just like, wow, like it made me become aware of these things. But for me personally, I do kind of tell the difference in the energies and what's communicating with me. So the Pleiadians tend to have like a very like high pitch sort of like like I don't know, just sound to them a little bit. So if I'm getting like a message, like I was gonna say like a slightly higher pitch voice or like noise, and like if it's like Arcturians, they tend to be like I don't know, very sort of mild. But the Galactic Federation, like when they sort of make yourself known to them, and if you ever do connect with those energies, they're very powerful. Like you would know, like they hit you like bam, like there's no other sign. Like they're very serious in their sort of nature, because of course they're here to protect Earth. So if they're going to give you a message, they're giving it to you straight up, like bam, this is it really. And yeah, there's like earth elementals as well, which we can talk about. Those do kind of exist to a degree as well, like when you kind of think about that side of things. But yeah, and there's also like stuff on the 4D that you can kind of pick up on. So like that's another realm, because like most of these energies, like the Galactic Federation of the aliens, all about are on higher dimensions, on the fifth dimension, and then there's the fourth one, and that's where things where we kind of got to be very mindful as to what we're tapping into, because that can get like you know, with like deceased people and stuff like that. But for me, I've always sort of had it. It's developed more recently, and I feel like for people, especially now, more people are becoming more psychic and the frequencies are lifting, so more people are experiencing these kind of things. And I know that you, Christina, had developed yours very quickly this year.
Yeah, exactly. And kind of having gone through this process very freshly, I would say, I also want to share a couple of things that helped me to kind of wrap my head around where are those beings, how come I'm not seeing those beings, and so on. Is that we have to realize that Earth, we are three-dimensional beings, right? It's physical matter, and there are other dimensions that we are simply not seeing with our three-dimensional eyes, because it's not designed to see those things. It's just operating on different frequencies, right? So Earth now is shifting into five-dimensional frequency, right? So this is why so many people are developing their psychic abilities and are being contacted by other beings, is because we are raising the frequency not just of our being for psychic abilities, but the frequency of whole Earth is raising. That's why it's more easier to get into
Yeah,
this abilities. And yeah, as exactly as you Beatrice said, I consciously became aware of the messages I'm receiving only this year. And I've been noticing that it develops very quickly. And this is again because the veil between the physical matter and the dimension we're heading into is becoming thinner and thinner.
yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I think that is so true when you kind of think about things in terms for you and how you kind of receive things, and whether like you kind of definitely tell the differences between the different energies quite easily, because I kind of feel like the more sort of aware we become of this great shift that's happening, the more we sort of are able to connect to them and open our minds up to them. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And you guys, whoever is listening to this now and you're thinking, oh, maybe I'm experiencing something already, or I would like to experience something, we have to remember that we really have to be mindful that that which we are not seeing with our physical eye
Yeah.
doesn't mean that it's always beings of love and light. As you better said, there's fourth dimension, and the fourth dimension is where the linear time that exists in 3D reality becomes lucid, and it starts to disappear. But the fourth dimension is where the spirituality, the quantum fields start to come in. And this is the place, the realm, where there are a lot of other beings, which again we don't see with the physical eye,
No.
but the beings who, let's say, do not wish you well. And there are spiritual beings there, as all of us, we're oneness, we're consciousness. But the fourth dimension is where mostly the lower vibration beings live. And I do not mean like lower vibration as on Earth, but in terms of frequency, it's not the highest frequency, right? So most, it can be that those beings do not have best intentions for you. So when you receive any messages, always ask, what kind of intention you have. And you
Yeah.
can say by the energy, as you said, Beatrice, if it's a being of love and wish you well, or, there is some different intention and someone is trying to like trick you.
I totally agree, and I think we should be totally mindful of like our mental health and our mental state whenever we're connecting to these energies, because it's so easy, as people, that we can kind of get carried away within our own minds and maybe project things onto, the psychic realm that aren't really there, through our own, like, trying to convince ourselves, oh, I'm receiving this message, and trying to make sense of it all. I definitely think it's good to be mindful of like things in the fourth dimension, things in the fifth dimension, sort of understanding, these different energies like Galactic Federation, Pleiadians, what might be like a ghost, or like something maybe possibly like negative, but then just sort of being like, well, step back for a minute, this is just a message and I'm just receiving this from some place. Like, you have to label it, and also, making sure that your vibration is high and you have that intention set. So like when you kind of, go into meditation maybe, or for me, I kind of practice it through journaling, right? Making sure you're setting that intention to receive the highest of wisdom, and making sure that, you sort of do some sort of cleansing as well. Exactly. Like, I like to picture, a white light being around me. Make sure you're calling in protective energy as well, because often I feel like we sort of neglect protecting ourselves sometimes in the spiritual community, because we're thinking to ourselves, well, if we're putting out the vibration that we need protection, then we're going to be within that, facing energies that are going to try and attack us because we're a vibrational match. But that's not true, because actually, protecting yourself is at a higher, it's a higher level. Like, we've all got to do it. Like, we're human yet again, and there's, lots of sort of horror stories out there, right, of what happens to people in the new age community. I've heard, like, you come across stories like people like experiencing negative things in meditation, or doing yoga, like Kundalini yoga, and then all of a sudden they like sort of go through like a fearful process, right? And yeah, just making sure that you're mindful, connected with like, what's highest. Also making sure that you kind of build a spiritual community around you as well. So you've got people that sort of know about this stuff. So if anything does happen to you, you can talk to someone about it, because like they might be able to tell you more. And yeah, just but having fun with it as well. Like, just don't take it seriously. Like, at the end of the day, this is the Great Awakening, right? We don't know what's all out there yet, do we?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't think there's any being, like one being that knows it all, like all of
Yeah.
it, right? And yeah, I love what you said. Community is so important, and obviously, guys, we can give you tips, like basic tips, to do the protection. Be mindful of who's communicating with you. But if you are interested in this, and you want to go deeper, I highly recommend, there's tons of information available online. Go and research, start following other psychics, start following other spiritual thought leaders who will, we cannot go in this interview in more details about protection and so on, but definitely look this up. Don't be just like, oh, I'm just gonna meditate now and I welcome whatever. Be prepared, so, and this is what we're doing here with YouTube videos. It's also creating this community, creating like, gathering like-minded people. So I love everything that you shared, Beatrice, so far. I Let's talk a bit about past lives. What
Yeah.
do you think? What are the past lives, and have you experienced the past life of yours?
Yeah, I kind of have been able to connect to a past life that I had actually on an alien planet. I had a dream once, and I literally saw this like very sort of tall, sort of skinny looking like blue being. I'm pretty sure it was possibly Pleiadian, but I wasn't entirely sure from the energies. It could be like Arcturian. I'm not so much, into like I'm not sure so aware of the visuals of each of these energies. But yeah, that was pretty profound. And then I've also had, when growing up, I connected with ancient Egypt a little bit. I remember learning about it at like school and getting fascinated, and I got like little relics and stuff like that. But to be honest with you, like I should really, like, a part of me wants to delve more into past lives, but I'm so focused on this life at this point, where it's like I'm more focused on the energies happening now because this is the Great Awakening. But yeah, have you got anything, Kristina, that you sort of have connected with?
Yeah, so one of my first past lives that I experienced actually was on this earth. And just to give you guys a little bit of context, like for me, in my understanding, past lives, it's not like they're just in the past, they all exist right now, right? Because again, we're all are one, it's all existing the quantum field, it's all happening right here right now, just on a different frequency. And I have a video, a separate video, which talks about illusion of time, where I talk about, you know, how we tap into all of these frequencies. So I remember I was doing like EFT session, you know, the tapping, and I was doing some healing around, you know, my family relationships. And as I was feeling the feeling, I remember in one moment, because I was on this specific frequency experiencing these feelings, I tapped into one of my past lives where I was actually a man at the war, and I was a leader. And unfortunately, we died as a group, and I was feeling really, really bad. And I basically died with this fear and feeling of disappointment. And there are a whole lot of other story why we died and so on. But basically, I tapped in this lifetime into the same frequency, which gave me the flashback and like the sound and everything of my past life. So like, and I've experienced other past lifetimes, and you know, I know my connection to different star systems. But like, and I love what you said, that, you know, I'm focusing now on this lifetime because we are in the Great Awakening. But I also think that your past lives are able, like when you tap into them, they're able to give you information which will help you to ascend and will help you to release the emotions that are maybe pulling you down. Because what I realized with that past lifetime is that that emotion which I was experiencing in this lifetime, and it was, you know, creating patterns, I brought it from my past life. And only when I saw that past life, I could make sense and heal it in this lifetime. So I
Yeah.
released this, you know, emotion and energy uh, from my being now, which helps me, which raises my vibration instantly. So I think, like, you know, yeah, it's just very interesting. You know, it kind of feels like their lifetimes on this earth, there feels it's so far in the, like, on earth, and then there are lifetimes on cosmos, but then it's like it's all one.
Yeah. And that's the thing with me. I suppose that in some sense, have sort of, been aware of past lives and stuff like that. But for me, I tend to see it as quite a distant thing. So yet again, like if you're watching this, like I'm learning, like Christina's learning, like everyone is sort of learning here as you sort of go along this process. But yeah, I think in terms of past lives for me, I do believe that we do carry some karma from past lives that we bring into this life, and that we carry also ancestral karma, right? Because often, our ancestral lines are linked to our past lives, right? Because we sort of, got this soul family that we come into earth with, and are like that actually are our family, and often we've, been in the same contacts with each other, like in different periods of our ancestry, right? So, I think it's definitely good to be mindful to sort of like get into history and try and understand things for yourself, but also like, what's Christina's sort of experience of everything with her like past life sort of awareness developing. I feel like, it's incredibly profound to have that knowledge and to seek it. So, yeah, that is something that I'm definitely going to like tap into a lot more. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's just like what needs to be brought to your attention will be brought to your attention. You know,
Yeah.
it's not even intentional that I was trying to tap into my past lifetime. But this exactly, you know, reminds me another time that we're always guided, we're always protected by the universe, by your spirit guys. Doesn't matter if you don't see them. but it's always there.
Yeah.
So before
Right.
we dive into Q&A, we have some Q&A from people about these topics, but I would love you if you could share, Beatrice, the recent download that you have in regards to New Earth and us shifting into fifth dimension.
Right. So I'm big on journaling on my channel. I've also spoken about how I journal and often I, try and connect to my spirit guide, try to get my spirit team. I remember one evening I was just sort of journaling away, right? And I was trying to connect with like higher realms and I was sort of like writing about how I sort of felt throughout my day. And then I was sort of like asking, like I'll just ask like for a message. And I remember like I was about to go to sleep and I just sort of saw this vision and I've got like an image on my computer of this but basically it's kind of like if you think about static, that's the 5D, so like there's lots of static and lights going on around Earth at the moment, and then there's sort of like Earth, which is like at one level of existence that's physical, right? So there's like a pavement, for instance, that's completely flat, that's very stagnant, and then there's the like 5D. And like over time, as we sort of go through this process, after Christ being born, right, and then like into the age of Aquarius and everything that sort of happened, all of this has sort of slowly shifted and become closer. So now like literally the 5D, like the new Earth is here, we're in it, we're within it, basically it surrounds us, but it hasn't quite hit the pavement yet, it hasn't quite hit Earth yet. So we're going through this process as awakened people of bringing this energy down, and with this static 5D energy, this is affecting our electronics, this is affecting our lifestyles, because when you're spiritual, we often have lots of weird synchronicities and coincidences, and these are just increasing as this energy gets more embedded into Earth. And from what I kind of see it is that all of these energies are very positive, but at the same time, it's actually healing the fourth dimension at some level as well. Because the fourth dimension is sort of what's kind of causing that like vapor gap, like the air gap between what's Earth and what's the fifth dimension, the higher dimensional consciousness. But a lot of this, honestly, when I received the vision, I did interpret it myself, so it may not be entirely what the sort of Galactic Federation intended for this message to be, but that's how I've sort of interpreted it intuitively. So take what resonates, of course, but just be aware that there is so much more around you. And if you do see like orbs or anything like that, or see like light around you, then that's just a sign that the 5D is here. And the new Earth is a place you can shift to in your head. It's a mindset, right? It isn't something that's separate from us. And yeah, it's the only intention for Earth at the moment. So yeah.
Yeah, I love this so much. And yeah, even you guys, if you're watching some videos of other spiritual teachers and you really pay attention to their videos, like even my videos, I have plenty videos where in the background there's like orbs going on, and it's like, it's obvious that it's not just light, right? That there's something
Yeah.
there captured in the camera. And as you were sharing your channeled message, you know what I feel is that, because I also have heard this, that this new energy, the plasma rays that is also hitting Earth now since 21st December, and the whole new energy light that is coming with Age of Aquarius and with the new Earth, um, it's been here always, so to speak. Now, yes, it's blasting way more harder, stronger. But the thing is, and I think this is why you saw this gap, is because Earth has this electromagnetic field around it, which basically protects it. And I'm not sure, like, it's like electromagnetic field responsible, for information to be spread around the Earth. But basically, this electromagnetic field is what have been protecting Earth, not allowing the cosmic rays and light to fully penetrate the Earth. And as we humans as a collective and Earth itself is raising the vibration, this electromagnetic field is crumbling apart. And this is why I feel you saw that, that the new Earth haven't hit the pavement yet, because it's here, but we are still, our consciousness is not high enough to
Yeah.
fully receive it.
It's lessons and blessings, right? That's very much the, fourth dimension, right? And as you're sort of saying about the plasma rays and all of that, like we have to go through this process on Earth of learning and receive, like, developing and yeah, just sort of like these energies being put onto Earth, and for that, gap to sort of be filled over time. And I definitely feel like it is going to happen very much in our lifetimes, and like the new earth is already here, right? So yeah, totally resonate with that, Christina. You give me like a different perspective to that whole thing now.
Yeah, yeah, I'm 100% sure it will happen in our lifetime. You know, the next 3, 4 years is going to be the most transformational because, guys, imagine we've been living for thousands of years, and we specifically, the people who are on Earth now, we've been only experiencing like the end of age of Pisces. We do not know any other way. So imagine that now we're completely shifting the paradigm, completely shifting the energy that is present on Earth. It will take a couple of years for us to integrate, to learn the lessons, and to fully, step transition from 3D through 4D into 5D. So, just be mindful to everything that you're experiencing. You're not crazy, you're not emotional wreck. Just it's part of the process, it's part of the integration. So whatever comes up is just something that needs to be brought to your attention for you to release so you can move further.
Yeah, yeah, definitely going through that healing process, and not just getting lost with all of this stuff on, like, on the psychic realm, but also remembering that the spiritual journey, it's going within, right? We have to go within in order to experience all of this stuff to some extent. So healing work, shadow work, like, is important. Like, I've had to do a fair bit of mine. So yeah, do you want to move on to the Q&As now?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a couple of questions that we ask on our Instagram, and the first question is, do you have any idea of what is reality on the 3D plane? And you know, the I'm not sure if the person meant 3D or they meant 5D, because the
Yeah,
3D is what we are now. We are the physical matter, right? So I'm assuming that they meant 5D plane, right?
yeah, yeah.
So, do you want to share what is your opinion 5D?
So in my opinion, the fifth dimension is kind of like it's not necessarily stagnant, like it's not physical, right? Like we are in the 3D. Like in the 3D, everything's a concept. So we can conceptualize things through, we have our senses. So we make sense things, we feel things, we intuit things, we, think through things. Like that's very much at the 3D. But at the 5D is that like sixth sense, it's that developed sense of awareness where, like, it's more of like a field around us. It's not like, if you think about auras, right? That's the 5D there. When you can see auras, it's that it's very lucid, it's very like in sort of flow, it's just energy shifting and you can kind of feel it. It's not necessarily like anything that you can kind of understand, but like if you see, like, on the fourth dimension, like ghosts, for instance, like, how they're sort of like not here but not here. That's kind of like what it's like on the fifth dimension, but just slightly different. Yeah, like as the only way I can really describe it, to be honest with you. I'm still sort of like learning a lot more about this stuff, but yeah. And what about your perspective, Christina, on how like the 5D is different to the 3D and the 4D?
Yeah, so for me, the higher dimension is the lighter vibration is, the
Yeah,
lighter the energy is, right? We are 3D now, so it's physical, it's heavy, it's a physical matter. Where 5D, for example, um, the time doesn't exist in 5D. Why? Because time, again, exists in 3D. It's a linear, heavy thing. It's fixed. Where in 5D, you have to take responsibility for everything that you create because we are just energy. So it's ability to tap into quantum more easily and be anything you want faster. And again, this is the reason so many people are
Yeah.
experiencing manifestations quicker, synchronicities, where in 5D, this is the norm, right? We just
Yeah.
have forgotten in 3D what it is to be a source energy. So for me, it is simply um yeah, being lighter. I also feel that we will be eating a lot less. I'm sure you can relate to that your appetite or eating habits has been changing during last few months. You know, either you are super hungry or you either don't want to eat at all. So it's again, you know, physical food is a physical matter which lowers your vibration. No matter how light the food is, it's still physical, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I've definitely sort of experienced that to an extent where I've sort of been drawn to foods that are like a little bit lighter, but also like more nutritionally packed in terms of stuff like that. But yeah, and I was kind of thinking that, as you were talking there and as you were sort of speaking about, the 3D level, it's, we have this idea in the spiritual community of the matrix, and this is like this coding that we all sort of have of like 010101 digits, right? And in many ways the fifth dimension, I don't like to get too caught up in like those sort of ideas, but we are so programmed here on this level, and the fifth dimension is sort of this higher awareness, right, that we all kind of have from our higher selves, that's literally trying to just penetrate this reality and wake us all up, right? That's what it's all trying to do, right? It's just trying to like be like, look, there's more to just this, there's more to what you've just been programmed into. There is, higher awareness that sort of exists here, and I feel like when we get too caught up in the 3D, which is fine, like we can all like, just like sort of go about our normal lives and do what we are used to doing, right? But when we allow the 5D in, it's that flexibility, it's that listening to ourselves rather than listening to what's around us. It's that going within, but also knowing that everything's a reflection around us at the same time. It's that being able to look at duality, right? And not so much get lost away in like, oh, divine masculine, divine feminine, right? Or like free will versus like destiny, or like all of these different concepts, right? Not getting lost into them, being like, look, those are only conditional. There's so much more to just the divine masculine feminine, like on the fifth dimension, none of that matters, it's all just integrated into one, right? So and you can see that taking place, in humanity and how we sort of perceive everything now. So even religion now, I've started to integrate this knowledge, if you really think about it. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think what I got from your message is less labeling and
Yeah, yeah, less
actually
labels.
and actually just being in the moment. So I love that. All right, so the next question is actually coming from like a fellow light worker. And the question is how to use your psychic abilities not to scare off clients. And I feel it can be not to scare off clients and not to scare off other people in general as well. So what would you say here, Beatrice?
I have personal experience with this. I've had experiences where I've literally like recently I called my dad and he was in the car with my sister and they were both talking to each other about me. So when I called, they were like shocked, like, oh, we were just talking about you, and like synchronicities like that happening. Or like there'll be moments where I sort of like pick up on like a song that someone else has got in their head or something like that, and like it can like stuff like this, like when you sort of tap into the psychic realm and you have this awareness, it can freak people out a bit. It's natural. I often kind of find that, the reason why we're so sort of drawn to it is because we're kind of freaked out by it in a weird sense. Like we don't quite understand it yet. So yeah, I definitely feel like in terms of, the question, I feel like it's good to be mindful that these things may freak us out, but it doesn't have to be from a place of fear. It could be from a place of curiosity, right? Of questioning, of being like, okay, then, so this weird synchronicity has happened in my life. I've seen 1111 plenty of times today, or something like that. Like, being like, okay, I'll Google the meaning of it, and then I'll try and, integrate this wisdom that it has. And then like, I tend to find that when you're receiving like a lot of synchronicities at once, and then you sort of integrate the lesson from it, or you receive the blessing from it, which is like, what, like, goodness is being manifested into your life from seeing these things. um they will fade, and then something new will come. So it's always being prepared for the unexpected, and yeah, living life in the present moment, of course. And yeah, just like honestly, people are going to become less afraid the more that we integrate this fifth dimension, definitely.
Yeah,
What do
exactly.
you kind of see it as, Kristina, for yourself? Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. The more we speak, the more it becomes the norm. But in terms specifically about clients and business,
Yeah.
I'm
Oh,
not exactly sure what the person meant as their psychic abilities. Is it just, seeing 1111, or, you know, you rock up on a client session and suddenly you start singing light language and they have no clue that you are psychic. That may freak
wow.
out. But um in terms of business, I would make sure that you are very, very clear with your messaging so that people actually know what to expect from you, so that again, you don't start a session and they have no idea that you will be using some spiritual tools. But second, be very clear also on who you are. Who you are as a teacher. Are you just labeling yourself life coach? Well, then people will not expect you to use any psychic things. Then it may scare off people. But again, coming to that, we had to recognize this first in ourselves, and start calling yourself if you wish. So I'm an intuitive guide, or a psychic, or a channeler, or a healer, or whatever it is. Then people will not be freaking out from you, singing or doing energy work and so on. So this is my take on this, not to scare off the people, because it is, if you think that you will scare them, you will attract exact people who will be afraid because you are afraid yourself.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. Like, I'm not at like the psychic sort of business world yet, but it's definitely something I'm developing on myself at the moment. But I totally agree that when it comes in terms of business, and when we sort of see the new earth, right, we can see that, us sort of using our psychic gifts in business and in the way that we operate, in order to, create services for people. That the more, when we actually say it, this is what I do, this is, what we have to offer, right, making that clear to people. I think it's best to have that transparency, but also bearing in mind that, we don't want to just like push our own like sort of beliefs on other people who may not be open to it. So I feel like, yet again, it's sort of like, like the whole, like, if you really think about it, like sort of business school, right, it's always like the client's always right. Like sometimes you got to be aware that, a person who's asking for the service, if they're like sort of uncomfortable with it, then you've just got to be okay with that fact. Which is, something, a different sort of area. But yeah, I mean, definitely an interesting question you gave there, Kristina.
Yeah, so thank you to the person who asked this. And last question, I think this is the most common one. When people just are waking up to this kind of things and this reanalysis, physical proof. Can we give a physical proof to any of these things? And when I read it, for me, like instantly, I just want to share it, and then I'll hand it over to you, Beatrice. But for me, we have to realize that all of these things, they're not physical. So it is controversial question, because as I said, as we were talking about, 3D is the physical world, is the physical heavy matter. Those things do not exist in 3D. So it cannot like there can be proof, but not a physical proof. It's the same thing. You go to sleep and you experience a dream. Can you give me a physical proof of your dream? No. But was your dream real? Did you experience it? Yes. But you experienced it in a different dimension. So if you need a proof in general, not physical, we are living proof right here. And there are thousands upon thousands of other people who have experienced energies and messages from different dimensions. And I completely understand it's hard for people who haven't experienced themselves this to believe in this. But for me, it will be open to the possibility that it's possible because you are seeing that other people are doing it, and ask intentionally for different realms to be shown to you. So no
Yeah.
physical proof, but there is a proof of in our words.
Yeah, I totally agree that, we very much are the proof in our words. And I really sort of liked what you said about, not needing to really ask for that physical proof, just sort of taking it from within, sort of being like, well, I received this dream, I received this vision, I know this is true, for me. And I do kind of feel like, to some extent, there is like sort of moments where we do kind of capture some physical proof, like it might not be obvious, but like it might just be this like the slightest thing that sort of takes place in our sort of environment. Like it may, like, walk into a room and feel a bit cold or feel like a bit hot randomly and stuff like that. But be mindful of these energies. They don't want to exist on the 3D, because why would they? They want to be on they're in the fifth dimension. That's who they are, and that's how we connect with that. So yeah, when we tap into that higher vibrational state, we're able to like just truly trust ourselves and know who we are at that soul spiritual level and have that awareness to us. So yeah, I totally resonate with what you said, Kristina.
Yeah, this is amazing. And as you were speaking, for me kind of question came up because I feel other people might have it is, well, when I start to experience this myself, how do I know that it is my psychic abilities and not my mind making this
Yeah.
stuff up? How would you distinguish the difference?
Well, in terms of psychic abilities, I tend to find that it's the mind kind of is that thinking, it's that feeling, it's that sensing. I tend to find that when you sort of receive something and there's less emotion to it, so you're less attached to it. So for instance, the vision I received, I remember I completely cleared my head out that evening, like of all my sort of thoughts, and then my mind was open, I was present in the moment, and I wasn't really thinking of much. So it's bearing in mind that these things will come to you. And like when it's our mind sort of making things up, we want to explain everything. So if we're constantly searching for explanation to what we receive from the psychic realm, then that's our mind. And also being mindful of whether we are aware of our own mental health as well, and making sure that we're taking care of ourselves from within, because delusions and stuff like that are very real. Unfortunately, they do, like, these things do exist for people who have experienced certain like traumas in their lives and stuff like that. So being mindful that the psychic world does exist, but also we're still on the 3D, right? We still got to be realistic with ourselves. But yeah, I think, yeah, this is very interesting. What about you, Kristina?
I feel that when something comes from my mind, it kind of comes in a story.
Yeah,
Like you can track the root, the beginning of the story. But when it's a channeled message, it's like deep inner knowing and just pops in your mind like out of nowhere. So, and as you said, it's less emotional charge. There's like no emotion, but I can distinguish that. Yeah, it's just like deeper knowing that it's not your energy. um so I will say, yeah, like if you can find the root of where it came from, it's probably your mind trying to make stuff up. But if there's no logical explanation, like can you explain me where on earth you can, get an image or a sound or a voice in your head? No, because you tapped into a different realm. And, when you think that this is this simple, you have to realize we all are psychics. We are all intuitives. Um, so I think we're gonna wrap this up here. It has been such an incredible conversation. I really appreciate everything. Beatrice, you shared so many golden nuggets. And yeah, guys who are watching, let us know in the comments what is your experience with your own intuition. I- Are you curious about tapping into your psychic abilities, or maybe you are already doing it? I'm gonna link down below my recent video about how I tapped into my psychic abilities if you haven't seen it. And I'm also planning to do an online event. I think it will be second week of January most probably, into how to shift and be in 5D. So keep your eyes open for that. And as I said before, all the details to Beatrice's Instagram on her YouTube channel, it's going to be in description down below,
Yeah.
box below. So definitely give her a follow, connect with her. Is there anything you'd like to share at the end, Beatrice?
I'd just like to thank Kristina. We sort of connected through Instagram through doing this. We sort of came up with the idea together, and yeah, I'm very sort of like happy. Like if you want to come across my channel, I talk about different subjects and stuff like that, and I'm sort of like developing on quite a few ideas at the moment. So definitely check me out. I do try and upload quite regularly on around about a Sunday. But yeah, honestly, you know. Um, Everyone sort of on Kristina's channel always leave really nice comments and stuff like that. So yeah, I look forward to hopping in her comment section as well. So yeah,
Yeah,
sending positive vibes as always.
yeah. Thank you for this conversation, and thank you for being you, Beatrice. And thank you everyone for watching, and we'll talk soon. Bye.
Bye.